There are two smells that send people straight to a search like this one. The first is musty and damp, like a wet gym sock or an old basement, and it pours out of the vents the second the AC kicks on. The other one is worse, more like ammonia or cat pee, like something crawled into your ductwork and peed in there. Here's the short version of what's going on. That smell is almost never a gas leak, it's almost never refrigerant, and it's usually not a dead animal either. It's mold and bacteria growing on the parts of your air conditioner that stay wet. The smell is basically a fingerprint. What it smells like tells you which exact version of this you've got, and most of these you can fix yourself. Before we get into the musty smell and the pee smell, there's a quick fork you have to clear first, because a few smells are not this problem at all, and they matter a lot more. If what you actually smell is rotten eggs, a sulfur smell, get everybody out of the house before you do anything else. That rotten egg smell is the additive they mix into natural gas and propane, so a leak has a warning smell and gas can travel through your ducts. Get outside, then call the gas company or the fire department from the yard. If it smells like burning plastic or hot wiring, an electrical, almost gunpowdery smell, shut the system off at the thermostat. That can be a motor or wiring overheating, and running it is how a smell turns into a fire. And if it's a sweet, chemical, almost nail polish kind of smell, that one can actually be a refrigerant leak, so shut it down and get a pro out. None of those three are what most people mean when they type this question. But if that's your smell, handle it before you keep watching. Now for the big one, the musty, mildewy, dirty sock smell that hits hard for the first 10 or 20 seconds when the AC kicks on and then mostly fades. The heating and cooling trade has a name for it. They call it dirty sock syndrome, and it's so common it's practically the default answer. Here's what's actually going on in there. Inside your air handler there's a cold coil called the evaporator coil. When the AC runs, warm humid air from your house blows across that cold coil and the water in the air condenses onto it, the same way a bathroom mirror fogs up and beads with water during a hot shower. That part is supposed to happen. All that water is meant to drip down into a pan and run out through a drain line. The trouble is what grows in there in the meantime. Dust and dead skin and everything floating around your house settles onto that wet coil, and mold and bacteria move right in. The smell you're smelling is that colony. And the reason it's strongest right at startup is that while the AC was off, the coil and the pan just sat there damp and stagnant, and the first blast of air drags all that stale smell out with it. Once the coil gets cold and the water starts flowing again, it clears out. A couple of things make this worse, and they explain the weird timing people always ask about. One, it tends to show up in the first week you flip the system from heat over to cooling, usually in spring. The coil sat unused all winter, the growth got a head start, and now you're pushing air across it. Give it a week and it sometimes settles down on its own. Two, and this genuinely surprised me when I read into it, the newer high-efficiency systems are more prone to it, not less. The coils are packed tighter and they run cooler, so they never get hot or dry enough to sort of bake themselves clean, and they hold moisture longer. Which brings up the part nobody wants to hear. A brand new unit can smell like this, and a coil you just paid to have cleaned can smell like this. It is not proof that your AC is filthy or broken. A running air conditioner can pull 50 pints of water out of your indoor air on a humid day, so it does not take long at all for something to start growing on all that moisture. So how do you actually kill it? You work through it in order, cheapest first. Start with the air filter, because a dirty filter, or a filter that's the wrong size and lets air sneak around the edges, is often the reason the coil got nasty in the first place. Swap it out for a clean one. Next, go find your condensate drain and the pan under the coil, because a lot of the time the smell isn't even the coil, it's water sitting and turning sour in a half-clogged drain line or a pan that isn't draining right. Pulling that clog, usually from the outside end of the line, and dropping in a tablet that keeps the pan from growing anything, clears up a surprising number of these on its own. If the smell is still hanging around after that, clean the coil itself with a no-rinse evaporator coil cleaner, the foaming kind that's made for exactly this. You spray it on, it foams up, and the condensate water rinses it away for you. And here's the step almost everybody skips, so pay attention to this one. Clean the blower wheel too. That's the little caged fan that pushes your air around, and it collects a fuzzy layer of mildew that a coil cleaning never even touches. Plenty of people scrub the coil, get nowhere, and then discover the blower wheel was the whole problem all along. On money, doing it yourself is a can of coil cleaner, call it $10 to $20, plus a wet-dry vacuum you probably already own. If you bring in a pro to clean the coil, you're looking at very roughly $250 to $750 in 2026, depending on how buried and hard to reach that coil is. The thing to be careful with is the quote that jumps straight to replacing the coil or the whole system for what a good cleaning would fix. A smell is rarely a reason to spend four figures, so slow that conversation down and get another opinion first. Now the one that really worries people, the pee smell. Ammonia, cat litter, sometimes straight up urine coming out of the vents. First, let me kill the scary theory, because it's all over the forums and it is simply wrong. An ammonia smell does not mean a refrigerant leak. I went through the manufacturer pages on this to be sure, and the refrigerant in a home air conditioner, the R410A or the newer blends, is basically odorless. There is no ammonia in it. Ammonia refrigerant is a real thing, but it lives in big industrial plants, not in the box sitting beside your house, so you can cross refrigerant right off the list. What that pee smell usually is the exact same problem as the musty smell, just a different flavor of it. When mold and bacteria break down the gunk on your coil, one of the things they give off is ammonia. Bacteria feeding on dead skin cells literally make it as a waste product. So a urine smell that comes out of every vent and rises and falls with the AC running is almost always that growth, and it gets the very same fix. Clean the coil, the pan, and the blower wheel. The exception, and this is the version people are genuinely scared of, is an actual animal. A mouse or a rat can crawl into your ductwork or into a wall unit looking for a warm spot and either nest and pee in there or die in there, and a decomposing animal gives off ammonia too. So how do you tell the two apart? It mostly comes down to where the smell lives and what it smells like underneath. The mold version is musty under the ammonia. It comes out of all your vents evenly, and it tracks with the AC turning on and off. The animal version smells rotten rather than musty. It's strongest at one particular vent or right at a return grill, and it tends to build over a week or two and then slowly fade as the thing dries out. If you start seeing flies at one vent, that pretty much settles it. Here's my honest take though. If the smell is coming out of every vent evenly and it's more musty than rotten, stop hunting for a dead mouse and go clean the coil, because that is where it's coming from. Which brings me to the question that runs through every comment section on this, and it's the real reason a lot of you are here. What do you do when you already cleaned it and the smell just came back? I read through a big pile of these, people who cleaned the coil, ran a full duct cleaning, some who replaced the entire system, ductwork and all, and a few who paid for a UV light on top of everything, and that faint musty whiff at startup still came back the next season. It's maddening, and almost nobody gives them a straight answer, so I'll give you one. When it survives all of that, the source is almost always water that's still sitting somewhere it shouldn't be. A drain line that isn't sloped right, so water pools and stagnates in it. A pan that never fully empties. Soaked insulation in the air handler that got wet once and never dried out. The two things that actually fix it for good are boring and cheap. Fix the drainage so no water stands anywhere, and dry the coil out, either by running the fan for a few minutes after the cooling stops, or setting the blower to keep circulating. One guy's office only stank on Monday mornings because the system sat switched off all weekend and the pan went stagnant. He started leaving it running through the weekend, and the Monday smell was just gone. He didn't buy a single new part. And this is where I'll say the thing the upsell would rather I didn't. A deodorizing fog, or one of those no-rinse scented sprays, doesn't fix anything. It just perfumes over the smell for a few weeks. A UV light aimed right at the coil can honestly help hold the growth down, but only if it's actually pointed at the coil, and it is not a magic wand. I saw people quoted $2,000 for a UV light and an air scrubber to solve a smell that a new filter, a cleared drain, and $20 of coil cleaner would have handled. That one gets me every single time. Chase down the water first. Reach for the gadget last, if ever. So, to keep it gone, change the filter every 1 to 3 months, and if there's a gap around the edge of the filter, tape it up so air stops sneaking past it and fouling the coil. Keep that drain line clear and drop a fresh pan tablet in each season. Run the fan a little after the AC cycles off so nothing in there sits wet. And once a year, actually clean the coil and the blower wheel before the growth gets a grip, instead of after your whole house smells like a locker room. If you're renting and you can't exactly take your own coil apart, you are not stuck. Change the filter, pour a cup of water down the drain line to check that it's flowing, run the fan to dry things out, and put the coil and blower cleaning on your landlord in writing. That is genuinely their job, and a musty AC is a fair reason to push on it. The coil cleaner and the condensate tablets I'd reach for are in the description if you want the exact ones. This isn't a broken air conditioner, it's a wet one. Find the water, dry it out, and it goes quiet.